If we could, I'd like to first start off with a moment of silence in memory of Lieutenant Husak and Officer Jensen. Thank you. I'm also going to ask for another moment of silence. A former county legislator and a zoning and planning board member passed away this last week as somebody obviously particularly important to me specifically, but also somebody that was extremely important to the entire town of Salina. That would be Judy Tissot. We could have a moment of silence for her as well. Thank you. We have a few presentations to get through today. I have talked to the different presenters and asked them, they're on a strict time limit, but our first one is with Equitable Advisors.
Thank you everybody for your time. Today's presentation is really for everybody that's here. And as an elected official, everybody's got a responsibility to not only your constituents, but the employees. And as I travel around the state and country, I've had great experience working with individuals, businesses, municipalities. As you know, Equitable employs a significant amount of people here in our community. What a lot of people don't know is it's the backbone of our 457 deferred comp plan in the United States. So a police officer in Los Angeles that has an equitable deferred compensation serviced right here in Syracuse, New York. So just again, your role, you go poll, get petitions, go file, get on the ballot, then you went and campaign, get elected, now you're in constituent services, here we are today. So you have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to your employees, and ultimately, I'm here to make sure we have transparency on what we're talking about, because it is very important to everybody that's here, especially on this side of the table. So as you know, that man, Tom DiNapoli, does a great job, elected official. Big responsibility, 1.1 million people that rely on that pension system. In retirement, they're gonna have a guaranteed pension, and in addition to that, Tom DiNapoli's office makes available a deferred compensation plan. This allows somebody to put money away for retirement on their own, and Tom DiNapoli subcontracts that to Nationwide. So here today, as you know, you don't do that. You've used the other, which is called the model plan. So as I travel across the state of New York, I can tell you, you're in the minority, first of all, have a minority plan, so congratulations. This is good, you have a model plan, this is a first good step. And that model plan is modeled after that state deferred comp. So any of the bylaws, any of the structure of that retirement plan must follow Tom DiNapoli's office. That's why you have to disclose what it is that you're doing with your model plan, file that every single year. So the benefit of that model plan is that you have additional service, and what a lot of municipalities don't recognize is that you can have multiple model plans. That's a multiple provider plan. So Onondaga County leading the way in retirement planning across the country, some of the strongest participation numbers amongst municipal employees. So if I was on your side of the table, I know that this employee exists here. No matter what you do, I can go up here and give them 100% rate of return. You're still gonna have someone that's not happy. And if I was in your seat, I wouldn't want to move somebody's retirement dollars. That's not your business, that's not your place. But you make additional resources, another model plan, you let somebody go work for it, empower them to go make that decision, and now you got somebody that's happy. So this is a responsibility to you in constituent services. This creates a competitive process for vendors. Now you have just one, now you have more than one, so now they're competing to get the best fees, which is good for participants. And now you're educating and empowering your employees. So the problem today, this is the newly appointed U.S. Department of Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez. She's responsible for the fiduciary standard, which is for the 401k markets. My family owns a 401k. They have a 401k for their employees. They have a responsibility for participation. It has to be near 100. The average across the state of New York is approximately 10. So, and what I see is people. I help people every single day. So, John and Jane Jacob, both finance directors, both want 200 grand a year in retirement. I know the private side of John and Jane Jacob with the same credentials, the same background, the same set of circumstances, could take a job upstairs or go work for a private institution. When they want $200,000 a year in retirement, the private finance directors are going to have more money. And it's just basic math. They had to have saved $3,500 a month at a 7% rate of return to approximately have that much money. So you got to think, in addition to a pension plan, in addition to the Social Security, if we encompass and empower our employees, what does this do? Timely retirement. That means that we can lower the payroll cost, long-term better budgeting, that reduces the healthcare strain, and you're also able to continue progressing in municipalities. So, long-term, you don't want people that can't afford retirement, and things aren't getting any cheaper. So, you got to think, like, why does this matter? In 2009, a few friends having a cup of coffee said, hey, you know what, this coffee is really good. Let's buy this stock. It cost at that point $9.48 a share. And one of the friends said, you know what, I really can't afford that right now. 10 years later, they're sitting there, still drinking coffee at Starbucks. And now the one friend says, gee, I wish I did that. Well, you know what, now you can afford it at $9.48 a share. Because now you can pull out your cell phone in 2019 and purchase that stock in 30 seconds at a fraction of the cost. Where is this going in the future? Your employees, they want choice and guidance, and they have an expectation that you provide this to them. So the landscape, what's out there? Who am I? Why am I doing this? Equitable advisors, I'm a broker. I can use any of these providers that are out there. I get compensated the same. I choose to use Equitable because the footprint. We have $6.8 billion in employer-sponsored plans in the state of New York. 2,300 of them are employer-sponsored plans. So working with people, that fiduciary standard, and we give back. So why this conversation arose? Because I've been spending time at the New York State Association of Counties, the Association of Towns and Villages, and the New York Conference of Mayors, continuing to tell this story. And I'm amazed at how uneducated elected officials are across the state of New York. So this is the first place I'm giving this conversation to. This is not going to be the only one. This is lined up across the state. I'm going to be doing this at the Association of Towns and Villages. We'll be having training classes. But why I really wanted to provide this to you is because it's so simple. And I guess it would be the town attorney or the clerk to look at, if we go down this path and you decide that this is what you want to do, you have to have that deferred compensation committee. It's got to be documented, and you have to release an RFP. You can't just say, hey, Anthony, knock with a bull, and this is a great idea. It's got to be fair. It's got to be balanced. Make it competitive. I love this. I would love to come back and have a conversation with anyone here in town. The deferred compensation committee then has to review that, submit something to Tom DiNapoli's office that says, hey, we're adding another provider. In addition to that, I don't believe this municipality offers a Roth. I would add that at the same time. Kill two birds, one stone there. And then they'll launch it to the employees. So, I got 2 minutes to spare.
Just for the board's information, and you and I had talked about this at the Association of Town. I did explore, it's going to be our comptroller, going to be our attorney. There might be some legal questions that you have to explore, but our comptroller, but I did explore potentially having an additional option about a year and a half ago. The previous comptroller was not interested in doing that. There obviously is a little bit of legwork. I do think it is a great option for the employees, for the town. I think it also makes it more enticing for employees to want to stay or people wanting to get hired by the town, which to your point only improves constituent services. So I think it is something worth digging into. It was a good presentation. I think you said this is the first one you've given? And you're gonna give
It's the first one I've done, and I'm waiting to train a bunch of people to do this, because I'm not leaving Syracuse, New York. I like driving a mile back and forth to the office every day. So, but this is gonna be given, my goal's 100 times. I think that's pretty simple. There's like 10,000 municipalities.
I'm gonna give one rip advice, make sure you don't tell elected officials in other places that they're not educated. Qualify it about this specifically. But nonetheless, I thought it was good. Can you share a copy of this presentation with the council?
After I have my attorneys put some disclosures on it, absolutely.
Sure, perfect.
My only question is really obviously,
Yeah.
you know, from formerly working for a company that's wholesale 401k, is there an administrative cost to the town? That's the piece that the town would have to come up with as far as in our budget.
There's no third-party administrative costs like that beyond the participants, and they're all customized. And again, I don't want to speak because I haven't seen any of your plan documents or anything along those lines. But Onondaga County doesn't pay any additional costs. They have 4 providers, and they do. You know, everyone's a little bit different. We all have sweet spots. We all work together. I have great relationships with the competition, and it's good. It's good for the employees.
So the bids are just going on the accounts themselves, not.
Yeah, nope, it's all negotiated. We have 1 year, we have 1 year contracts with the county. That's a much more, larger dollar amount. I can't negotiate on behalf of the construction and the actuaries and everybody else that goes into the numbers. I'm here strictly from a participant basis, but again, I don't need to use Equitable either. I could use Empower and the other firms that are out there, so I can negotiate myself.
Do you plan on pitching this to other towns in Onondaga County?
I'm gonna do the ones here myself, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's potential maybe for a consortium of towns to be able to do something?
So we can talk offline. I don't know if that is allowable under the document eligibility. I've been trying to figure that out for years. I don't think it's possible. We can try it. I would love it.
It'd be interesting to look into only because.
I can tell you right now, if we were to do that, it would be groundbreaking across the state of New York, and this is the financial mecca of the world here. This is New York State, so.
Okay. Cool. Any other questions? I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the feedback.
We do have another presentation by Census Gatso. I'll let him get set up. Thank you. This is Ian. You are the president. Sorry? Where is your relationship with Census Gatso?
I am business development manager.
Business Development Manager. He, recently, him and I had a conversation. He conducted a miniature study regarding speeding in the Lakeport School District school zone with some very good results. Well, bad results. Depends on your point. But this could be the beginning of us trying to fix what is a problem, and it's something that we may be able to replicate in other school zones. I think, and actually I see a former town board counselor here with Jim. Back when I served on the board with Jim, we put school zone feedback signs in one of the school zones, and while they worked only to some degree, this has a lot more teeth for us to enforce school zone speeding. So I'll let you present the board.
Okay. Supervisor Parra. All right. Thanks for letting me be here this evening. My name is Ian Gregg. As he pointed out, I'm with Census Gatso USA, and we are one of the world's largest suppliers of automated enforcement technology. And as it happens, tonight's topic is how you can leverage that technology to make your school zones safer. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the dangers of speeding to start off. A couple things happen when a vehicle starts traveling faster. The first thing is your field of vision is narrow. So it makes it more difficult to see or to anticipate hazards on the side of the road, bikes swerving into your path, or a kid running out into the street. So that's a problem. And then the second thing that happens is your reaction distance, the distance the vehicle travels while you are reacting and braking increases significantly as the speed of the vehicle increases. So you can see there, the difference between 20 and 40 miles an hour is almost triple. So, it takes longer to slow down, and you have a harder time seeing hazards on the side of the road. Resulting in, when a vehicle comes in contact with a pedestrian or bicyclist, if it is going 40 miles an hour, there's a 46% chance that's going to be a fatality. So that's a coin flip. That's not good odds for the person on the street. Speaking of that speed study, it was the April 1st through the 3rd that I conducted it. At the Linford School, there you can see where I attached the radar. You can see the school zone in the other image. You notice there is I'm sure you all know the area very well, there is a traffic light down there that I'm going to speak to in a minute. The numbers, frankly, I do these all the time. These numbers are staggering. And I kind of had an idea because I sat there a lot and watched the traffic, and they were the occasional vehicle that came by that appeared to be going 20 miles an hour was very occasional. There were a lot of vehicles moving pretty fast. This is conducted with a small radar device. Obviously, I'm not taking any images, just using radar to track the vehicles. Here's a little bit better graphic display. So the bars on the green are the vehicles traveling at or below the speed limit. I would say, now this is just a guess on my part, a large percentage of those vehicles were slowing down to stop at that light. They weren't necessarily evading the speed limit, they just had to stop because there was a light there. And you can see the number of vehicles exceeding the speed limit, and then that blue line represents what we would consider a violation, 11 miles an hour or more over the speed limit. I took it upon myself to look up this data. This is crashes in Salina in the last 4 years that involve pedestrians and or bicycles. You can see in the last 5 years there have been 6 pedestrian fatalities and 11 serious injuries over this 5-year period. Now this is not necessarily related to the school zone. The website that we use, the ITSMR, didn't break it down as to where they were, but nonetheless, you know, all it takes is one tragic incident. So automated enforcement, why is it out there? Well, because it works. So there's been several studies by the Traffic Safety Administration, the IIHS. They have found that using automated enforcement reduces those vehicles that are traveling more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit by up to 88%. We did our own study. We have a program we're running. This is in Ohio. We measured the number of violations in the warning period versus 1 year later at the end of the school year, and we did see an 81% reduction. So the programs really do work. Not sure why I went backwards. There we go. Okay. So from a legal standpoint, the first step is the town would need to pass a local resolution that would allow a home rule bill to be brought before the New York legislature and then ultimately be signed by the governor. That's the way they set it up. So that allows you to use automated enforcement in designated school zones. So the enforcement period, again, is only when kids are there. That's the whole goal of this, is to keep the kids safe. So it's an hour before school, and you'll see on my speed study, that's kind of why I did the hours I did, because 7 a.m. is roughly an hour before school, and 4 p.m. is roughly an hour afterward, because I wanted to kind of keep it to that window. Right? I didn't want to have a bunch of numbers that didn't make any sense. And then you can also enforce during school activities. So if you have summer school, or if there's something going on a day when it wasn't normally a school day, you can enforce that too. Violation occurs at 11 miles an hour over the speed limit. It's not 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour. It's not a gotcha. It's 11 miles an hour over the speed limit. The fine is $50, and it is a civil fine. It is not a moving violation. There's no points on the driver's license, there's no insurance hit. It is assigned to the registered owner of the vehicle, essentially the same way a parking ticket would be. So, if they choose not to respond, or, either pay or challenge it, it does incur a $25 penalty. And the program does require, as you saw in the previous study, a 30-day warning period. So that 30 days, anyone who is getting a violation just gets a warning saying, look, this is here, it's working, probably won't slow down. Last but not least, it is 100% violator funded. There is no upfront cost to the town. The vendor bears all the responsibility for engineering studies, speed studies, installation, etc. And then it is a revenue share program on the collective violations. So just really quickly about technology, we do use state-of-the-art Doppler mapping radar. That allows us to track up to 60 vehicles across 6 lanes simultaneously. It has a high-resolution digital camera and a 4K video camera. So the evidence package will be 2 still images and 15 seconds of video. So it is pretty irrefutable. We use time synchronization. We ping a little clock every 60 seconds to make sure that the system time is correct, so that we are enforcing when we're supposed to be enforcing. And just really quickly about radar, the big advantage of radar is consecutive and concurrent violations. So if 6 vehicles go through the zone and they're all speeding, they're all going to get a violation. So you might ask, well, if there's 6 vehicles in the image, how do I know that my car was the one that was, that was speeding? We use this TVM, traffic violation marker. It puts an X on the vehicle. It's kind of hard to see, but at the top of the screen there is the metadata that's associated with the violation. So it's the time of day, the place, the speed, etc. So you know for a fact that the vehicle with the X on it is the vehicle with the metadata. We also offer ALPR. I don't know if county law enforcement uses that, but if they do, we can either augment that or add to it, just depending on what the needs are. I don't want to dwell on that a lot.
What does ALPR stand for?
Automated license plate reading. So law enforcement uses ALPR for like sex offenders. They'll do a geofence around a school, and if the vehicle that's not supposed to be there goes there, they get alerted, or cars stolen, that kind of thing.
So this would integrate into their system and be able to track it?
Yes. Yeah. We can we have a lot of options that we don't necessarily need to dwell on that too much, but we can accommodate one way or the other. So, really quickly, how it all works. Vehicle goes through, they're speeding, it is captured by our system, we call that an event. Right, that event comes in, we have reviewers in Beverly, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston, who are reviewing all those events. We establish business rules with the community. Do you want to see if it's a police car with the sirens on, should we just wipe it away? Do you want to make sure that we can identify make, model, and color, or just make it model, things like that. Once we establish that it is a good violation, we contact, depending on the acronym, NLETS on your behalf. So NLETS is the national database of registered vehicle owners. We get the registered vehicle owner information, we put that into the event, then we send it to your side. And someone from your community is going to review all of those. Now, we've already done the triage.
Pointing to night codes.
We've already done the triage, we've gotten rid of the ones that, you can't read the license plate, or it's a, police car or an ambulance, whatever. So you're only looking at ones that we feel meet all the criteria. So it speeds up that process a little bit. Once that's done, it comes back to us. We issue the notice of violation. We send out all the paperwork. We collect the funds, and then on whatever cadence you decide, weekly, monthly, whatever, we sweep your share into your accounts. Sure.
What if they challenge? Who is responsible for the challenge?
I'll come to that. Okay, so just really quickly, this is what your reviewer would see. The black box is obviously redacted because it is an actual violation, so I covered up the owner information. There's an example of mailings that we send out, and the variety of different mailings. We can customize those. They're relatively standard how they're laid out, but you know, we put your logo on them. If there's any text that you want changed, you know, things like that, we can customize that for you. Okay, so back end, we are collecting all of this data constantly. Number of vehicles, how fast they're going, the number of violations, the ones that are paid, et cetera. So a big part of the legislation is you have to report to the governor every year how the program is doing. So the suite of reporting allows you to do that very easily. All the reports are right there. It's not anything you have to chase down. They're also available throughout the year as well. Okay, hearing requests, same portal. So all this is happening on the same, basically web-based portal, and it's role-based. So depending on what role you have, you see different things. So a violator can schedule a hearing. It is an administrative hearing. It doesn't have to be a judge. It's a, you know, again, it's very similar to the parking ticket. If someone wants to challenge a parking ticket, the law kind of outlines the basis for a challenge. If your vehicle was stolen, if you want to sign an affidavit and assign the blame to somebody else, you know, there's a half dozen things that make up a reason for challenging the citation. And then also, once it's adjudicated, that information is stored in there also. And of course, the violator can go and pay their fine online, or they can see their violation. They can see the images, they can see 15 seconds of video of their vehicle. It's relatively straightforward. It's when you're more than 11 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, and there's video of your vehicle, it's, you know, there's not a lot of argument there. So what would a timeline look like? Typically it's about 22 weeks. So we have a kickoff meeting, we have some software development that has to happen, engineering and permitting. Some of those things run concurrently, so they don't add up to 22 if you add them up. But that's essentially what it is. There's an asterisk by the permitting line because that's kind of out of our hands. I will tell you though that we're doing a big program at Alamany, and that program, 21 days after the permit was issued, we had cameras up and going. So we can move pretty fast. Biggest piece of this is public awareness. People have to understand why you're doing it, how you're doing it, all the ins and outs. It's really important that people don't get surprised by this. Still people will. And that's what the warning period is for people who just, you know, miss the social media posts or et cetera. And we can help with all this. We have an in-house graphics team that can help with brochures or social media posts, or I can come to town hall meetings and travel on for hours on end. Or take the slings and arrows. Okay, so really that's how a program is successful, is you gotta have all these kind of things together. Right?
So you and I have met twice via Zoom, and I've fielded quite a few questions from me before we got to this point. And you sufficiently answered them. I think there were some logistical questions that I had on how it would be operated. I think for the board's information, because we obviously had a police force would be the ones that would be the approval process, but because we don't, we were able to look into this, and it will be okay because it's a civil penalty. Somebody in our codes office will be the one that would be able to do the reviewing and approve it. There is one thing, you said there is some type of coordination.
So I mentioned NLETs. So when we contact NLETs, we do it on your behalf, on local law enforcement's behalf. So we would have to have an intergovernmental agreement with
The sheriffs.
in order to request that information on their behalf.
Right.
which will help us, that's the vehicle registration.
Correct, yeah.
So that, but because it's a pretty small lift from the sheriff's, I'm confident that wouldn't be a problem
It's actually no lift for that.
at all. They just have to sign the agreement.
We need they have a special number that we use, when we, and then there is a charge, but we pay that also.
Okay, fantastic.
I just have a few quick ones, just related to the approval process, because obviously, that could end up putting some strain on the department that's doing it.
Mhm.
So, why is that even needed? If you guys are doing your review, why is it need to be a local person, is the first question.
Well, frankly, it is a historical remnant. There were, let's just say there were some bad actors in this field, and you had, what you don't want is a third-party for-profit company throwing violations out there, right? The classic example is the vehicle in the back of a record. The record's speeding, and the person with the car on the back of the record got a ticket.
Got it.
So you want to avoid those things because it's bad for everybody.
Okay, so then, the next one would be, how often do they have to do the improvements? Like, every day they come in, they gotta do it? Is there a certain time, like, they don't do it in like a month, now it voids it?
Yeah, well, I don't know about, because the violator's clock starts when we send out the notice of violation. So if we don't get it back from you, their time doesn't start.
Okay.
So, I mean, ideally, it's one of those things where if you spend a couple hours a day on it every day, it doesn't get away from you. If you go 2 or 3 weeks and don't do it, all of a sudden it's, a great big pile of them that becomes daunting.
Yeah, so that goes to my last question. So if you're reviewing every individual one, you're not just doing like a, okay, mass approved?
No. We're looking at everyone, getting the NLS data.
I'm
making sure-
saying internal on our side.
Oh, yeah. I would, yes, you should look at every single one.
You get this, and okay, it's third party, why am I gonna pay?
You can,
You know what I mean? It's not against your
well,
community or.
first they get the $25 extra charge, and then, if they still don't pay, then the town can turn them over to collections. Same way as if you had an unpaid parking ticket. I'm not sure how you handle that, but that's what a lot of communities do these days.
Yes, this is similar to the, bus cameras.
I know that you said that there were no upfront costs to the towns, but about when a repair is needed, is that following us?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you're leasing it, so we take care of everything. We do the maintenance. The radar unit has to be removed once a year and sent for bench testing for calibration, so, we've taken care of that. The system does do its self-calibration every day to make sure that that's also part of the law. It has to set up, calibrate, make sure everything's correct before it can go into enforcement.
This is something that we can put in multiple school zones.
Yes. Yeah.
And is there anything if a person keeps getting a citation, is there fee ever increase or is it
No.
up to the town?
It does not escalate.
Any other questions?
Thank you for doing this. I mean, short of having a statue, state trooper on front of the court school, I don't know how people will slow down.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly there's an issue. I think personally, I would say the signage needs a little bit of an upgrade. So an upgrade, again, that's something we would do because the law outlines what signage we have to put up. So we're gonna make sure that everything is copacetic. Some better signage and a robust enforcement program, I guarantee you'll see those numbers drop. Because I do these a lot and that's the worst I've seen. To be honest, I know you don't want to hear that.
Wow. So what I'm hopeful for, and this is actually on the agenda, what we have to do is request for home rule legislation. So New York State Legislature has to approve us to enact this. There's already conversations with the Assembly Transportation Chair and the Senate Transportation Chair for both of those committees. If we go forward with this, it seems like this is something that will happen this year for us. And if it does and everything works out, I'm looking forward to getting the data in a year and seeing a significant decrease. That's my hope.
Yeah, and if in the interim you would like to do more speed studies at other school zones, let me know.
Long range.
Yeah, that's already on my list.
We can make an arrangement.
Sounds
It
good.
means means I have to spend a week in your beautiful town, but.
Thank you. Alright, take care.
Maybe when it's a little warmer.
Yeah, we're getting there, it's close.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we now have a public hearing. This is the last presentation, folks. But we do have a public hearing for our, it says for the 5-year plan. It's for the submission for the CDBG grant fund. For this year, there's a project. Barnum and Judas is our engineering consultant for our 5-year plan and our community development block grant applications. Ken is here, he's gonna present the project that they are looking to pitch to town this year. I kinda let Jason and me and Al come up with a plan for us to pitch, or a plan for them to pitch the board, for us to seek funding this year.